Welcome back to Global Eye. Diplomatic ties between India and Afghanistan are set for an upgrade. The Indian government has decided to reopen its embassy in Kabul, marking a major step forward in formally recognizing the Taliban regime. Afghanistan's Foreign Minister Khan Muttaqi was in Delhi this week and met External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. It marked the first high-level diplomatic visit to India since the Taliban overthrew an elected Afghan government in 2021. India had then shut down its embassy but always maintained a technical team to carry out humanitarian work. Deliberations between Afghanistan and India have come to speed in the past few months. The Afghan minister met with India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri in January this year. As Kabul's relations with New Delhi are seeing an improvement, its ties with Islamabad have been worsening. The Afghan city saw explosions overnight as Minister Muttaqi landed in India. While some speculate the overnight Kabul attack to have Pakistan's involvement, no official confirmation has been seen as yet. Investigations are still underway. In a joint statement, Jaishankar said that both nations face shared cross-border terrorism threats. Speaking at a press conference, the Afghan minister, Amir Khan Muttaqi, said that both nations should talk to the United States to urge them to remove sanctions on the Chabahar port in Iran's area. India's access to the port for trade with Afghanistan has been impacted because of the US sanctions. I'm now joined by Tilak Devasher, author and former member of the National Security Advisory Board. Thank you very much for joining us on the program, Mr. Devasher. Let me begin by asking you about the importance of External Affairs Minister's message that the Indian embassy in Kabul will be restored. What's the significance of this?
I think, first of all, the visit itself is very important because this is the first face-to-face physical meeting, bilateral meeting between the two external affairs ministers. Earlier, the EAM has spoken on phone, but this is the first face-to-face bilateral meeting. So that in itself is very significant, quite apart from what are the other takeaways from the meeting. Now, about the embassy, I think what the EAM mentioned was to upgrade the technical mission into an embassy, right? Now, an embassy has its own dynamic, has its own importance, and then what just a technical mission does. So yes, it is a very important step in our bilateral relationship.
Right. Sir, I would like to ask you about the fact that Amir Khan Muttaqi, the Afghan Taliban foreign minister, is here for almost a week-long visit. And there are going to be discussions not just on restoring diplomatic relations, but terrorism, trade and commerce, connectivity, sports relations, skilling individuals, healthcare. So what do you think is the view that India is taking on the relationship with Afghanistan for the years to come?
No, I think it's, as you just mentioned, the menu of sort of items to be discussed and on the agenda is so vast. And it shows that India is keen, as well as the Taliban are keen, to re-establish our relationship on a very strong footing, which is based on a wide variety of issues and to a certain extent are people-centric, are focused on what can we do for the people of Afghanistan. Since we've had long-standing relationship with the people, we've had civilizational links. And how do we do that? So I think, India has done a lot of humanitarian assistance, has provided medical assistance, provided during the earthquake, we were the first responders. So a wide array of issues and agenda to be discussed, focused on people-centric issues. I think it's very important.
Right. Now, let me also ask you about the fact that Afghanistan has invited Indian companies to explore mining opportunities in Afghanistan. Do you think Indian companies will consider trade and commerce, maybe setting up deeper operations in Afghanistan in the current atmosphere?
I think the companies will have to take a call, and especially first they look for advice from Government of India, and also the kind of assurances that the Taliban will give to provide security and safety to the Indian companies, to their equipment, so that they are able to conduct their business in a very stable and secure manner. I think companies will have to take that call and government will have to guide them. But this is a very big breakthrough because, the buzzword these days is strategic minerals, rare earth elements, or whatever you would like to call them. And Afghanistan is one of those countries which is supposed to have a lot of them. China, as you know, is already into doing copper mining in a place called Desainik. I don't know whether they've started mining or not, but they have a contract for that. So similarly, I think if Indian companies are willing to go there and explore minerals, it will be a huge plus for both countries.
Right. Mutaki said that Afghanistan looks at India as a close friend. They will never allow any group to use its territory against India. Does this mean that we have some assurance from Afghanistan that they will not allow Pakistan-sponsored groups or any kind of foreign actor to use their soil against India?
Yes, I think so. I think this is one of the guarantees that we have been looking. You see, though Afghanistan, Taliban is fully in control in Afghanistan, but there are ungoverned spaces because of the terrain, especially in the east, which borders Pakistan. So we were looking for assurances and guarantees for them that they would not allow anti-India activity from Afghan soil. And largely, which means Pakistan, like they have done in the past, to shift the camps of the Taliban, to shift the camps of the Lashkar and the Jaish into these areas. So now that the Taliban have given an assurance, and I think we can believe those assurances that they will make sure that no anti-India activity takes place from Afghan soil.
Absolutely. I would also like to ask you about the importance of the India-Afghanistan relationship and how important is it for India to restore full diplomatic relations with Afghanistan at the earliest, considering what's happening with Pakistan, considering what's happening with Iran right now, the kind of tensions we are seeing in the Middle East and the larger Islamic world. How critical is it for India to restore relations?
I think we have a very good level of engagement with the Taliban, especially after this visit. Now, recognition is a formal diplomatic status that each country awards. And here, I think India will go by the international consensus on formal diplomatic recognition. UN, what the Western world, what other countries come up with. Being a democratic country, India, cannot just break the international consensus. Especially, you're aware of the treatment of women. You're aware of that it's not an inclusive government. So these are the factors that India will have to consider before granting full-fledged diplomatic recognition. But short of that, I think we are having a full-scale engagement, especially after this visit, with Afghanistan. So formalities are there, nomenclatures are there, but short of that, I think, everything else is going to be done. But also, I'd like to point out one thing. The most significant thing that the EAM mentioned in his opening remarks is that India and Afghanistan are contiguous neighbors. Contiguous neighbor means that we share a border. We have commonality. So, this is a very significant remark. And I think this is the one that should be played out, that we consider Afghanistan not as a next door, or a neighbor once removed, but actually a contiguous neighbor.
Right. That's an important point, sir. And the EM also announced that there will be 6 new health projects that India will undertake. They will be gifting 20 new ambulances. Air connectivity will increase. Visas will increase as well. What do you think Afghanistan and the Afghan Taliban would want from India at this stage?
I think for them, developmental assistance is most important. There's medical help that India has announced, including CT scan. I think MRI machines were also talked about, because health is one issue which I don't think so the Taliban have been able to pay too much of attention due to financial constraints. So the ambulances, upgrading of medical facilities, visas is something that the Afghans would really value and cherish. Right. And they're really looking forward to that. And also, I think the AM talked about restarting or upgrading the projects that we were already involved in, and to open negotiations for new projects for the future.
Right. Can Afghanistan act as a buffer against Pakistan? And who do you think among different countries which have their embassies in Afghanistan right now, who do you think has the strongest relations with Afghanistan currently?
In terms of people-to-people contact, I think India has the best relationship. Over the years, the kind of help that, during the period of the Islamic Republic, we pumped in almost $3 billion of humanitarian aid, building projects which are people-friendly. No other country has done that. All of the countries were looking at security issues, They spent trillions or billions of dollars, but all on security issues. India was the only country that built hospitals, that built the parliament building, that built schools. So there is a lot of goodwill in Afghanistan for India amongst the people of Afghanistan. So I would say that we have the strongest relationship.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Devasher. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Global Eye. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18 for more.